This is Starting Point, a podcast that tracks Guyana's unprecedented growth from all vantage points. Join your hosts, Kiana Wilberg and Fariza Hanif, as they dive deep into the heart of topical issues.
Welcome to Starting Point. I am your host, Kiana Wilberg, and I'm joined by my astute co host, Ms. Fariza Hanif. Today, we will be discussing a number of development issues, and to help us with this discussion is the Honorable Vice President of Guyana, Dr. Bharrat Jagdeo. Vice President, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. My pleasure to being here.
Vice President, you've been engaging voters on the campaign trail, and there's been a lot of discussion about the fiscal promises, such as cash transfers. But the PPP in particular has been cautious in this regard when compared to your competitors. Can you shed some light in how the PPP approaches balancing realistic fiscal planning alongside the heightened expectations of the electorate at this time?
So, if you trace the history of the People's Progressive Party, we've always been careful and deliberate about economic policies. We believe, and we've seen many countries in the world, because they did not pay heed to sustainability, they had periods of boom and long periods of bust.
Right.
And that is why, from the beginning, when we resumed office in 1992, we had to focus first on reestablishing a sustainable macroeconomic environment. Without addressing that issue, there would have been no viable economic or social plan for Guyana. Mm-hmm. When you're using 153% of revenue to service debt, or your debt is 9 times the size of the economy as it was back then, there is no sustainability. You're bankrupt, you're insolvent as a country. Mm-hmm. And we've had over a period of time, through careful planning, and a lot of our planning has been reflected in several documents, the National Development Strategy, the Low Carbon Strategy, the Poverty Reduction Strategy, the Competitiveness Strategy. These have all reflected that sustainability. And so we manage, even before oil and gas, to restore our country to viability and solvency. We were using less than 10% of revenue to service debt in 2015 when we lost power. And also the debt had come down from 9 times the size of the economy to 45% of GDP. Right. Which is one of the lowest figures in the world. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, we started tackling the essential things of rebuilding, although we're tackling the macroeconomy, schools, roads, hospitals, sea defenses, making sure higher wages were paid to the public service. So it's a package. The opposition would have you believe that all you can do is spend. Everything they do is promise about how to spend. So we say 100,000 in cash grant, they would say 400,000 5 times a year. Mm-hmm. We say we want to double old age pension, they want to triple it or quadruple it. It's never going to happen because we don't have the resources to do that. This and every other promise, like the threshold, we doubled the income tax threshold from $65,000 to $130,000. And then we added some more benefits for those working overtime and with a second job. They're now saying 400,000 threshold. I saw them say, they revised it down recently. Mm-hmm. So you have to create wealth before you distribute wealth. Anyone who tells you otherwise is just fooling you. And fiscal policy is part of macroeconomic framework. You have monetary policy and you have a real sector policy. And that is why when we make a promise, like we did in 2020, we made several promises. We were in opposition, but we costed every one of those. And that's why we've been able to deliver on them. Because we have delivered on those promises, like with the returning the joint services bonus, they're now getting $2 billion per year more. That is what it comes up to, 1 month tax-free bonus. $2 billion more per year goes to our policemen, our soldiers, firemen, and the prison officers. The pensioners, by doubling old age pension, which we said we'll do, they're getting $20 billion more per year. The children grant would put $11 billion more per year in the pockets of the parents. So, and I can go down the long list. We are spending $300 billion to develop 50,000 house lots for our people. And every one of those things have been accomplished and delivered because we were careful about our fiscal policies. So with APNU and the others who are coming around now, well, APNU has now splintered into APNU AFC into 4 political parties.
Yeah.
So they're the 4 the same. They came out from the 2015 to the 2020 era. And how could you believe anything they say? They made even more modest promises in 2015,
Yes.
and they didn't deliver on them. And then they made all sorts of excuses why they could not, or fiscal imperatives. What do you mean by fiscal imperative? If you're taking 1.6 billion away from the children of our country, and then spending the same 1.6 billion to increase food supply to government ministers and officers, it means it's just a matter of your orientation and what you see as priority. There was no fiscal imperative that caused them to take that away, because we're collecting $94 billion per year more in taxes by increasing all the taxes. So you had the revenue to accomplish and even increase, you accomplish your promises and even increase benefits to the people. You did not. Mm-hmm. So coming back to the point about fiscal policy, fiscal policy has to be part of a macroeconomic framework. APNU and the others are not talking about how they would create wealth. We're the only party that says we're going to establish a development bank so that people can get small loans to start businesses. They can then, with that 0 interest rate, and that means they would create wealth for themselves and the country. They would employ people. We're going to have a favorable environment for miners or farmers or fishermen, for every sector of the economy, all of the people, so they can create more wealth. The hospitality sector and other industries, the services industry, would have favorable taxation policy so that people can generate jobs and create wealth. We're the only party talking about wealth creation along with more benefits to people. So you use a word fiscal policy. A lot of people might be saying, well, what the hell is that? But really, it's just how government collects and spends money. And everything, if you notice, for them is based on high oil income in the future. So they're planning everything they're saying we will deliver only if we get oil money. Look at what has happened to many countries that had oil booms. They look at Trinidad with the difficulties now. They can't find foreign currency. They're coming into many of their businesses are now coming to Guyana to buy foreign currency in their banking system. Venezuela went from 3 million barrels of oil per day to starvation. People did not have food at one stage, and they had to flee Venezuela to many other countries in the world. Bad management. APNU has never demonstrated that it had the capacity to manage the economy. So people have to pay attention to a lot of these things.
But, Vice President, you outlined a very nuanced perspective there. As you're on the campaign trail, do you get the impression that voters are convinced about the importance of wealth creation and the PPP strategy as opposed to the illusion that is being offered?
That's a big concern of mine because people can go and make a promise.
Mhm.
I'll give you $50,000 if you support me or come to my meeting. And that same person may have received $100,000 in a cash grant and knows that with sound management, they can get much more in the future. And that this person who's making that offer might disappear after the elections.
Mhm.
But somehow the short-termism and is is more is foremost in their minds. People don't think planning and long term.
Mhm.
And so they can put at risk their own futures. Look at what happened in 2015. And many people took a chance on APNU and AFC. Many voted because they actually thought that they were going to get more benefits. Many PPP supporters voted in their favor
Mhm.
in those elections. And look what turned out. Look what was the outcome of it. We nearly lost our freedom, and the economy suffered from mismanagement. People lost welfare, significant welfare. So that is a concern because how do you explain that on a political platform
Mhm.
when someone comes to a rally? From the moment you start talking about fiscal policy and planning for the future and all of that, you lose them.
Mhm.
Well, not everyone. And a lot of people on the ground, I don't want to disparage our voters. A lot of people are smart. Never mind, they're just the ordinary worker or a farmer or
Mhm.
someone working in as a waitress or so. People, a lot of them are think about the future and they're going to be making decisions, based on that, based on which party presents the best option or the brighter option for better future for them and their families. But there are a few people who you never get that across to. And it's hard to do that in a nuanced way. And people become bored about it too.
Mhm.
And especially when the other parties want to dumb things down. Like so, Azruddin Mohammed will never even talk about his own manifesto because he is incapable, much less talk about an economy or what it takes to run an economy and the complexities of monetary policy and stuff like that. You already said, there's a foreign currency shortage in the system because the government stopped me from exporting gold, from
Yeah.
smuggling gold.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
There is an issue called demand and supply. There's the balance of payment. There's a current account on the balance of payment and the capital account. You have to look at all of these things in a complexity, and it's linked to monetary policy too. The money supply in the system. It's linked to this fiscal um, plan of the government. If you spend too much at the government level, it can trigger a greater demand for foreign currency. All of that. It's a complex thing.
Mhm.
But you get that dumbing down, and then people every day on the media, they're just focusing on what Rick Ford Burke says or somebody else posts something. We never could have a sustained conversation about that sort of thing, which is crucial for our lives. Crucial that we don't ensure that we have sustained prosperity,
Mhm.
that in 10, 15 years from now, this country becomes the wealthiest country. We're already, on a per capita basis, we're getting there in the Caribbean, but not in terms of still addressing all of our people's needs. We still have poor people who need help. We have to help them get out of poverty through education, healthcare, housing, opportunities, jobs. But I can see us doing all of this in the next 5 years or so, getting them to a state where we become a country, one of the wealthiest countries in the world, if we plan well. But it could disappear. It could disappear too. And we have to plan for an economy that is not only reliant on oil and gas revenue. No other party talks about this. They're only talking about oil revenue.
And Vice President, you spoke about two things that I wanted to talk about. You spoke about risking Guyana's future, and you
Yes.
spoke about gold smuggling. Now, risking Guyana's future, it brings to the fore Azruddin Mohammed. We've seen that he is a sanctioned businessman by the U.S. The banks are cutting ties with his candidates, and the U.S. ambassador has spoken about what he means for the investment climate. Can you tell us a little bit more about the risk that Guyana will face if there is an Azruddin Mohammed party in the National Assembly?
So at the Bath rally, I said we're fighting two things in these elections, the People's Progressive Party, because it's demonstrated and well known across this country, even among our opponents, that we are a party that has achieved the most historically. That when we're in government, people see things happening. Jobs, roads, hospitals, schools, sea defenses, more investments happening everywhere across our country. That's clear. No other political party that's contesting these elections have that track record. The four that emerged out of APNU, AFC, Coalition, and Azruddin Mohammed has no track record. So that's very clear. In terms of planning for the future, the People's Progressive Party is way ahead of the others. We have articulated our plans in every sector. What we hope to achieve in education, healthcare, housing, water, job creation, business expansion, diversification of the economy, infrastructure. Every one of those plans have been well articulated and documented. We have already started planning their implementation. You've seen that happen. So if the parties can't compete with us on track record or plans for the future, what are we fighting against? We're fighting against, in terms of APNU, racism. And so racism and this negative propaganda which treats our people or which wants to make our people believe they're victims of discrimination, victims of exclusion. So and the racism that I talk of, it's not reserved for Indo-Guyanese and Amerindians and mixed people. One would think naturally that if someone says you're racist in favor of some group of people.
Right.
Afro-Guyanese are the target of this racism too. First of all, the exclusion and being taken for granted in the 5 years on the APNU, no development in Linden. You saw that. There's nothing in Region 10 that they can talk about. Norton went there and again criticized the PPP, spent about 10 minutes criticizing me, and could not lay out a plan for the future of that region. And nobody believes anything he says, in any case, given their track record. So exclusion, many people, and I saw that, and two, this belief that they own Afro-Guyanese, that many people have spoken of, and therefore don't dehumanize them in a way, as though they're incapable of making their own decisions and thinking about their own future. And some of the most educated people in our country, Afro-Guyanese, they are among our teachers and nurses and policemen in many areas, in the university, everywhere. And to think that people are incapable of making their own choices based on an assessment of facts, track record, as well as plan for the future. There is a very disparaging view of those people. And the ones who dare decide that they are going to support a political party that looks out for all Guyanese, that is trying to unite the country rather than divide it, and that under that government, their child would have a better future, or they would have a job, or be able to come out of poverty, or maybe start a small business. They're subjected to the violence of assault. Afro-Guyanese, it's even worse than what they say about the other groups. So it is all they're peddling now is racism to keep people away from the PPP. And then this thing like Amans and all of them saying, we do everything for Indo-Guyanese and Amerindians, etc. It's that one, other side of the racism targeting Indo-Guyanese, Amerindians, and mixed people. And then also the racism, a different kind of racism targeting Afro-Guyanese who dare to make a choice. So that's what we're fighting. They don't have any track record or plan. They have nothing. They don't even have the experience to manage the country and the leadership. Look at the leadership. Norton, Jureta Finance, and Mai Paul. No experience there whatsoever to run even a department of government, much less country. So that's what we're fighting there. And then on the other hand, with Azruddin Mohammed, he too has no track record. He has no plan for the future of the country. You saw the disastrous attempt to present what looks like a manifesto, which is a collection of things that we've already promised. And then they have no experience. Who is going to do it? Azruddin Mohammed? Azruddin Mohammed is incapable, or, I don't like speaking about people's academic qualification. But when you go on social media, you have Ezekiel Hours and the team Mohammed and all of the others saying that Azruddin Mohammed finished university, he went to QC and all of that. That's what they were pushing. And he didn't even finish his CXC, which was the fact. Then you know that the campaign is a campaign based on lies. But this is the presidential candidate who hides from his own press conference. How would he articulate a policy, formulate a policy? How would he represent us globally? How would he keep us safe from Venezuela? So that's a big risk. You talk about risk. So that is something that what we are fighting there is no track record of achievement, no plan for the future, no experience. And then on the other hand, added to all of those, criminality. And so we know now that this country could face sanctions and deep trouble with the United States of America if he is elected. He said he would be president. I think that has disappeared now, that illusion now. But his sanctions, they are serious sanctions. A couple days ago, they sought to say, that some Chinese companies are sanctioned, Huawei and Sinuk, that is part of the Exxon consortium and the bridge company. China Railway. And those are different sorts of sanctions. Those are securities related. U.S. individuals and companies can't invest in securities in these companies, but they're functioning worldwide, including in many countries in Europe and developed countries of the world. His sanctions came under those reserved for people who do drug trafficking, money laundering, gold smuggling, corruption, etc. He sanctioned under that rubric with a serious set of consequences which are spelled out in the sanction document published in June of 2024, which prohibits people from being involved with him, U.S. nationals, and it says and companies, and in addition, financial institutions and others who may be non-U.S. nationals can face law enforcement action if they're associated with it. It has happened. People have lost their visas. Now they're losing their bank accounts not because the PPP told these banks to do this, but because without being integrated in the global financial system, the bank might as well shutter its doors. Just, end business. It couldn't be able to operate if you lose correspondent banking relations. And so they always, two things he does. He presents himself as a victim of PPP discrimination. Oh, Jagdeo sanctioned him. Oh, these sanctions are not serious. When they happen, it's the banks that, the local banks, the PPP tell the local banks, no, don't worry. Well, after I'm elected, the sanctions would be removed. Look at Modi and Irfan Ali had 19 fraud charges. Irfan Ali was not sanctioned by the US government or anyone else in the world. And Modi was never sanctioned under OFAC. So the series of lies that they tell to confuse people why he tries to protect himself from consequences for his criminality is unbelievable. It's astounding. And some people who believe this and actually peddle the lies, it's seemingly smart people, because of hatred of the PPP, and some because they hope that he will be able to play the role that AFC played and then get some of the PPP supporters to follow him so he will bring us below the 50% in parliament. You know what happened in 2011 when that happened. The country stalled, nothing happened. And so there are risks to the people's lives, and there are risks for the country or safety with Venezuela. Can you imagine? I'm a bit dehydrated. So Azruddin Mohammed presenting our case or leading the case at the ICJ to keep against Venezuela on the border issue. Just imagine an Azruddin Mohammed having to do that. Venezuela is now claiming 5/8 of our territory. That decision is crucial. We kept Carl Greenidge on because we thought it's a national issue. And we have some of the brightest minds in the world, and led by a leader who can talk to the U.S. Secretary of State or any secretary in the U.S. or anybody from around the world, any leader. Just imagine the risk that he puts us there. But he is sanctioned, Maduro is sanctioned. And I saw the senators who said he's linked to the Maduro regime. And trust me, when U.S. senators say these things, they know what they are talking about. So that is, he risks everything there. Just imagine someone like that having to instruct the army or the police what to do. A known gold smuggler who has now owes the Treasury some $11 billion. $11 billion, that's leaving out the penalties. And the records are clear, the US has a ton of evidence, they have shared that evidence with us. but it's election season. You can't now.
Okay, right.
He would make it look like you're going after your opponent. $11 billion. He gives out $200 million of houses and of $5,000 to people and stuff like that. And he believes they must be grateful and the country must be grateful for that. He's protecting the 10,800 million that he has to pay in taxes for those 5 years alone. That's what he's investing there to protect, not in the nationhood. He's investing in himself to avoid criminality, or consequences for his criminality. So that's why I said that these elections are about two things. It's about ensuring that we don't have a criminal individual. Look at how many things have surfaced. This guy tortured people, his workers. It's in the Stabroek News. Tortured people. Now I've seen him surface about shooting a child. And he wouldn't answer that. Shooting the child there. He's been fingered in the paper short murder. Apart from gold smuggling, Reuters said he has been investigated for money laundering with the Russian mafia and cocaine smuggling from Colombia. All of these things, together. Just imagine an individual like that and emerging here. So we have these elections are bellwether of where we go in the future. And people in 3 years after COVID, we managed to practically change the trajectory of this country. We replace hopelessness with optimism. People are optimistic about the future. They know that under the PP, if they didn't get a plot of land, they will get it. They'll get assistance to build their homes in the next term. We'd have to give more money to the children, transport grant, school feeding, apart from what we did already by removing tuition at UG and paying for exams, etc. They know they're going to get better health care because they're already seen evidence of what we have done. 12 new hospitals in just these 3 short years after COVID that we put together in our building now. They know that. They can't risk that future. Take a chance on people who have no track record or who trying to save themselves or trying to divide our people along racial lines when we should be bringing our people together. And that's what we are working on.
You mentioned the gold sector and gold smuggling. And on Saturday, the president spoke to residents in Region 7, Bartica, at the rally, and asked them to, mine their gold legally, do it in a fair manner. What more can the PPP do to tackle corruption in the gold mining sector?
Yes, so clearly, the Chinese were doing some of this. And that's why about 1.5 years ago, I said at the press conference, there were several sting operations. And we actually caught several of the ring. They were charged. Some of these people for buying currency and shipping it out to Suriname, that group. Then you recall about these things that took place in the Letem area, right, and in Madia, and we caught individuals. The problem is that, and a lot of these are foreign nationals. Mm-hmm. They come here, they buy the gold. Problem is when you charge people for smuggling, they get bail. Smuggling gold. Mm-hmm. And it's harder to charge them for money laundering offense. So we now have to strengthen the charges that we place on those people. That's one. 2, what the president said is that because of the illegal gold smuggling, it put the sector at risk because we had to fight off. We just got into office and the Canadian said, we don't want to buy gold from Guyana anymore because we're worried about contaminated gold coming into your system. Mm-hmm. At that time, when we just got in, they were worried that Venezuelan gold was coming through into our system and then being re-exported. Mm-hmm. So, and bypassing the sanctions in Venezuela. Now it's the other way around. We heard that the gold here is being smuggled into Brazil. So if we were sanctioned globally for our gold sector, all of our gold miners would be put at risk. And a few individuals, including the team Mohammed and Azruddin Mohammed, they put this sector sometimes at risk. All gold miners are placed at risk because if we don't get to export our gold, or it comes on a whole range of paperwork, etc., the administrative burden of having to export gold goes up. Who do you think it would affect? It would affect the people who mine gold, who sell their mine gold here, and who even export gold legally. So that is what the president was speaking about in Bartica when he said that a few individuals, forget the sanctions and all of that, but what they do, they can harm the whole sector. And I recall when we just got into office, what we had to stop buying gold from a number of people.
Vice President, I want to take you back to one of the measures you spoke about that will be used as a vehicle to create wealth, and that's the development bank. Apart from that, is there any other measure that you can tell us here that's fresh on, at this point in time that will be included in the manifesto to create wealth and to return more disposable income into the pockets of citizens?
So on the disposable income question, how do we allow people to have more money in their pockets? Through the taxation system. So we have already said no new taxes in the next 5 years. So you can plan now for the future. You couldn't do that under APNU or any other government because in 2015, they promised no new taxes and then increased 200 plus taxes.
Right.
We promised in 2020 no new taxes. We kept that promise. We said no new taxes in the next 5 years. We then said income tax would be lowered. So your income tax, you'll be paying less from what you earn now. So that means you can keep the money in your pocket. We said we'd lower taxes on vehicles and like equipment used in the hinterland, the riverine areas, etc. Like an outboard motor up to 150. So you know you'd pay less taxes even if you're purchasing vehicles. So that's one. I can go down a long list of tax measures.
No, just one.
I don't want to go down, right?
Just one.
Through lower taxes.
Yeah.
And then the second way of the increasing disposable income is increase benefits to people. So the children cash grant increase, the transport grant, then we have the pensioners will see increase, public assistance, public servants will see increases. All the groups that work for government, the part-time workers, the SIP workers, everybody through higher wages and salaries. The third area is in terms of additional benefits and disposable income is to ensure, what was the second point though?
You said taxes,
disposable
and then
income.
you spoke about higher salaries and wages.
You asked me two things, disposable income and wealth creation.
Yes, apart from the development bank.
So those are two ways where we can increase disposable income. You can also increase disposable income of farmers and other groups, the fishermen, if you help them with the cost of input. So if they pay less on input, they earn more because they get the fertilizer, seed paddy, nets for the fishermen, etc. And the miners also get better roads and also the equipment, the wear and tear on equipment. So they then get higher disposable income in the sectors. And they will see less taxes for companies to lower so they can keep more disposable income. 3 areas I mentioned on disposable income. I can do about 10. Now, in terms of wealth creation, how do we do this? We've laid out already. We're not waiting for the launch of our manifesto formally. We've been talking about this through several things. So one is wealth creation, more contracts in government, and at a smaller level and the bigger ones.
Okay.
So the first thing is that look how many new contractors we have. You're going to have maybe another 5,000 in the next term to add to those who we have across the country in every region. So a lot more people will get procurement opportunities from government, and we'll do it in a manner like we're doing now, where they work based on rates, so they don't have to bid at the lower level. Once they get beyond 15 million, they have to bid. So for example, when I was in Region 10, 700 contractors got projects up to $11 billion. And these are all small people from the region. So that's one area where they will get more opportunities to do work and to create more wealth. The second is through small business development. So we would have to, we're talking about opening up more lands for the small miners and also farmers in Region 3. In Region 6, we are doing 30,000 acres there. In Region 5, 55,000 acres. In Region 2, 5,000, but we'd have to increase different parts of the country. Here on the highway, we're thinking about more farmers getting land, people getting more land for farming and smarter farming. The miners are going to get more land so they can grow their business too. That's one. Two, we said in every region, we want to have an innovation hub and a business development hub, so they would get the technical support. Thirdly, co-investment with businesses. So we build factory shells and they will then operate, the small businesses will operate that, like we've done in several areas. Fourth, the financing. That is small loans to small and medium scale businesses, zero interest loan from the development bank. So these are just a few of the areas how we can work with people at the lower end. The next one is how do people create wealth by investment. So if you're a teacher, a nurse, or anybody in the country and you have a savings account now, we want to be able to underwrite some lucrative sectors in the economy and give people the instruments, either through shares or bonds, to invest in those instead of putting their money in the bank, where they can get, say, a guaranteed 10% return every year, rather than getting, I don't know what the banks give now, 3%? Around that, about 3%. So your money earns more for you. That's why financial literacy, financial empowerment. And this is not confined to like only, it's all over the country. Whether you're a rice farmer or you're urban, you're in Georgetown, or a sugar worker, or anyone else, or an Amerindian living in the deepest recesses of the country. We want to take the opportunities there, everywhere, for all of our people, so that those communities too can benefit.
Vice President, when is the PPP launching its manifesto?
Will there be a launch?
Well, yes, we will, but we've launched our we're the only party that's about 6. We did that. We have already spoken about 35 areas that will be part of our manifesto. I don't think there are many new areas. For example, we're the only party that talk about SASOD coming to our consultation, what we said we'll put in our manifesto and what we will not support. I made that clear. I said we're not going to support gay marriages, but we will support strengthening laws against discrimination based on sexual orientation, because no Guyanese wants anyone to be discriminated against. And I said that, and the head of SASOD, and he said we're not even asking for gay marriages. So we've spoken about support for animal rights and working with people. We've already said that clearly, that those, we have to invest more in those organizations that take care of like the animals, strays, etc., because that's a big group of people who have been, I don't think, overlooked, but they do valuable work. And then we said we have to strengthen the engagement with religious communities, helping them directly now to do a lot of the social tasks
Right.
in the communities, working, so abuse of women, children, helping out with the young people in the area, guiding people on the ground, counseling, that sort of thing, using the religious organizations. We were going to strengthen the laws relating to children and women against violence against women and children. We're going to strengthen the child care agency, the protection agency. We're going to give the NGOs more money that work in these areas. So a lot of those things, we're the only party that's been talking about how we engage people. In the school system, we said a compulsory subject will be civic education, to work with NGOs and others to make sure that we can have every child in school go through a course where we instill in them love for the country, patriotism, some common values, where people relate to each other differently, to fight racism, all of that. We're the party that, apart from talking about cash grants, which we will do, and everything else, we're the ones talking about how do we change the nature of our society to be more caring, more friendly, how we take care of people living with disability, with every group of Guyanese, being involved. And so we've laid this all out. I don't know, when we launch the manifesto, we'll really be talking about things that we have been talking about for 6 months, 8 months, 2 years, and stuff, what we're coming to. Like education, we don't need to go and lay out a plan. We're already rolling it out, and we just need to add to that. Healthcare, we've already started rolling our plan out. Infrastructure, we've defined it. We've rolled it out. We said what we're going to build in the next term. That's been done. Job creation, we've laid it out. Hospitality sector, how many more jobs will be there? The oil and gas and agriculture. We have laid out in great detail almost everything we plan to do. So for me, the manifesto launch is, we're going to do it, but it is something that people already know about the PPP because we've been talking about it. Like communities, the biggest concern we have now is drainage and stuff. People want concrete drains and they're overgrown and it's muddy and get flooding. And we said, what do you expect can you expect from us in the next 5 years in your community? Street lights, because they want that. They believe it's safer. Security cameras for safer communities. Every ground will be repaired in every community with lights and recreational facility, concrete drains. We're going to go back to planting trees, picking up the garbage, all of that. So your community, you can see a community evolving in the next few years. Like in Sophia, we just finished the roads. Now people saying, but the canals are overgrown. And so the next term, you'd see that change communities. People, if the houses are going to improve because people get help to improve their homes as well as to build.
Right.
Poor families and stuff like that.
So it's basically building on what you already
have. Building on a solid base and helping at least the most vulnerable people too, because we need to step up on helping that group of people through opportunities, taking away, their costs for education. So they don't have to spend money if they're earning very little to send their children to school or to buy an extra meal because the child would be provided that meal. They would get help to build their homes now if they're poor. That sort of thing we're working on.
Are we going to see some new faces in a PP government if re-elected? And
that's a matter for the president of Guyana. So you have to ask him. But like with us, we always try to bring new people. And my role as general secretary, I was very fortunate that we had a party and a lot of our older leaders in the party who gave me a chance. When I was in my 20s, I became a minister. And by 35, they chose me as a candidate, presidential candidate. And so I think from then to now, our party has always recognized the need to give opportunities to young people. We have a lot of experienced people who have to stand behind those people all the time, stand behind them, lift them up, support them, etc. And I've been working across the country after our last Congress to try to build a core of young people. The PYA now is 15,000 strong.
Wow.
It's made up of young people from all across the country, starting from about 13 years old to 35. And we will work with them. The next term, I want to work at strengthening those young people. On our list of candidates, when we had gone through the list, we said, well, how many are young people? And we then went out and we said, get about 25 young people below 25 years old. And we went across the country and we picked a lot of the hardworking ones. And there were many more we had, so it was a tough process, and they are on our list. And if you look at them on the platform, they're doing extremely well. We're exposing them. Look at the Bat Rally.
Yes.
Those are girls and boys who never spoke at a major event like
Or
that,
a
but they
public
did
gathering,
well. They did well. Some of them are some young ones who spoke, they're in business, they have a small business, below 25 years. And some are like lawyers and stuff like that. From among our young people, and anyhow, let me don't compare to another political party. I would take one of those 20-year-old, the 20-year-old we have an 18-year and 19-year-old, and put him next to Azruddin Mohammed, and they would host a press conference and talk policy compared to that guy who hides from the media all the time. That's one of those little ones, young ones that we have, that we are grooming for the future. They will grow up, they will get the exposure, the experience, and they would learn one thing, that this party is committed to people. That's what is more important in a political party. It is how seriously you take your promises. I sit as general secretary every Thursday after my press conference, and I see hundreds of people. And every day people contact me, WhatsApp me, and that never changed throughout my presidency from 2015 to 2020 and in this period. We didn't become cardboard cutouts or become aloof from people the moment we got power. You ask all of the people like who are working in the leader of the opposition office, they can still come by, see me, talk to me, etc. throughout the years, because we believe we're here to serve. And a lot of people more are coming. Some of them didn't even come. Like today I was seeing someone and she said to me, in 2020, my husband was putting out flyers and stuff like that. And he's a hardcore activist. And he came, he was walking in the yard and a vehicle hit him down. And he's bedridden. And it's been tough for them. Let me say that. Tough in the last 5 years. For them. And I said to her, why didn't you come to me before? And she said she tried with somebody at a low regional, local level. And you know how I picked this up? There's an ex-soldier, a bright guy, who was going around now in the community sharing a flyer. And he contacted me 2 nights ago. I think I was in Bartica when I was on the stage, and he said, I met this family. So I called her. They came to see me, both of them. This guy is a hardcore PPP activist, came in a walking stick. And I said, why didn't you all come to see me before? I see people all the time. Like, and they need, if they come to Freedom House, once you come there, we assist. And he said, well, they didn't come. Because, and so we're helping him. But there are thousands of others who come in all the time. APNU supporters, PPP supporters, Amerindians would leave Region 1 and come to my office, when they have issues, some problem, health problem, etc. We've kept that. And that's what I want to make sure, that every leader of the PPP understands that. more so than the academics. The academics are important and they need to be smart also to run. You need to have a combination of the skills. You know, you can't be totally clueless because you just mess up the whole country. So this is important, this connection with the ground. And that's what we work all the time to make sure our leaders are like that. And we have had bad experiences on the ground. Some NDC leaders and stuff like that, they shout at people, they quarrel with them, you know, all sorts of things. And then it's badly reflected on the party.
Correct.
It's badly reflected. But we abhor that behavior. We prohibit that behavior. In fact, in local government elections, I talk to them about it. But it brings sometimes a lot of negative and drive people away from us because of some local leaders too.
VP, I also want to touch on a very important topic, and that is the state of the Guyana police force and restoring confidence in their investigative capabilities. What's the game plan for 2025-2030?
I think we have a different sort of problem. One, we have a perception problem, and two, we have an accountability problem. We have when we look at the statistics on solving crime in Guyana, we've done an excellent job. The training and the tools available to the police force to do their job, investigative work, has grown immensely. They don't speak enough of that success because the police force doesn't hold a press conference. And that is an accountability issue. I believe that they've had bad press on some things and they're worried that they'll go to a press conference and those issues will dominate.
Correct.
But then they need to talk about the enormous success they've had in these 5 years across the country in solving crime and bringing perpetrators to justice and keeping our people safe. And there have been many, many successes. And we have a lot of great police officers who've done good work, hard work, and sometimes unrecognized work. So that's one. So that's a perception. I was talking to someone from Trinidad and Tobago, and a Guyanese who came home, and he said, our police force here is like the FBI to the Trinidad police force.
Really?
Because in terms of solving crime and tackling the level of crime. But that doesn't get
Translate.
spoken about. Then the accountability problem, they have a few of these issues, and these overshadow everything else. So, for example, and often the government gets blamed for it.
Right.
So, like the Adriana Young matter, when someone lied about seeing that child leaving, and that caused a whole deal of problem. They should have come out immediately and said, this is not true. It's not true. They come up with all sorts of rigmarole, and then people started not trusting them. Then a few people who are on the road, the harassment, on the unnecessary. Now, on the road, you have a lot of people who defy the law too. They drink and drive. They believe they own the road. If they're connected to somebody, they believe they can they can then call them and harass the policeman. They want to, they think they're powerful. Some of them put on their own little sirens and lights and stuff, although it's prohibited. A lot of madness takes place on the road. But in some cases, too, the police contribute to this. and we need greater accountability. That's why we're now using more electronic means of dealing with that. So we have a lot of work to do. The police needs to come out more and talk about their successes. And they have to openly confront the issues where people lack trust in them.
Mm-hmm.
The issues like when they charge A.V. Skeller.
Mhm.
But we were blamed for it, but it was a different issue, blasphemous libel. Or when Rickford Burke was charged under the wrong area, the Chief Justice wrote. Not that Rickford Burke did not try to extort the man. They have evidence of the extortion, wrong charges. So somehow those things have to be improved on. But they have a great deal of success. Policemen, and you have a lot of dedicated people, hardworking people. And I want to say that when we return, you remember APNU. APNU is now campaigning again for the joint services.
Yeah.
Well, who would believe in the joint services, anything that APNU says? After Norton has been openly criticizing, I don't think Norton in his whole career has said anything favorable about policemen or joint services. In his whole career. There would be a stretch to find a single thing he says positive about them. He always has this confrontational approach to them. And then the $2 billion that they're getting now in the 1 month bonus, that's at risk again, because everyone thought Granger, being an ex-military man, would even increase their benefits. He did not, took it away. And Jordan said it was a bribe. You remember Jordan saying it was a bribe. And now with this recent promotion, you saw Norton again at it. All negative about it. And so I want to assure all of those policemen who have been approaching me and many people that 2,800 have been promoted. The president made it clear what he wants. There are a number of people who believe they have been bypassed or have been discriminated against. Every case will be examined. And if that turns out to be true, then you are going to receive your promotion too. We may not be able to do it now because we're in the campaign mode, but it will be done. So all of you who are contacting me directly, please rest assured that we will address it.
VP, I want to switch gears now and talk about a very important project, and that is the gas to energy project.
Yeah, sure.
Can you give us an update on what percentage of work has been completed thus far? There are two main components, the power plant and the NGL facility. Yeah. And then government is also pursuing the second phase, and you've received bids where that is concerned. Can you give our audience an update on where those are?
So for the last 3 months or so, I've been focusing, I deal more on policy level.
Right.
With the oil and gas sector and with the gas to energy project. I had a great deal of involvement with the project until it was tendered.
Okay.
And beyond that, I then moved back to my other portfolio because it required a lot of work to get it to that stage, to start the project, raising financing, everything else. I'm so pleased that the project is ongoing. I don't know the exact percentage, but we're still targeting completion by mid-next year. Okay. That's the last report that I saw. And a lot of work has been done, they told me, on the foundation, the piling, etc. The turbines came to the country, but they've been sitting for a while because of the delays in the project. They've been sitting here. These are the massive turbines that will generate the power. So that's an important project for us. That project, when completed next year, would allow us, along with the $420 million transmission main that we're building. Now, anyhow, don't go back to the whole project because that's only one transmission main. Yeah. We built another one for $167 million to bring the power to the control center here at Eccles. So don't get caught up in the details now, but that project, when completed, when all of its form, will allow us to solve a lot of the power problems we have, make the system more stable. Every time, like today again, I was talking, I'm very upset with the people. They told me an excavator was working, it knocked down one of the transmission mains. When a transmission main is damaged, it blacks out large amounts of area because it's not a circular system, it's a linear system.
Mhm.
So if you cut it here, it means everyone beyond that point can get power. If it's a circular system, if you get cut here, you can route the power through a different area. That redundancy is what we're trying to build now. It's never addressed. And then moving the transmission mains from the roadside now, where they're located on these lantern posts, the wooden ones, many cases, to now the steel towers, would allow us to make the system more stable. Because when one of those trip, the transmission mains, they pull down the whole system sometimes, the whole power. So that work is ongoing whilst we're building out the infrastructure of the country. So next year, when that's completed, that would allow us more power, cheaper power. That's why we're the only party that says you're going to get power at 11 cents per kilowatt hour, half of the price. The others may promise cheaper power, but from what project? Which project? No other party has any project except us now to deliver the cheaper power. And I said to the residents in Essequibo, they too will get, because we're now putting in the solar there, and solar in Linden and in Berbice. But Berbice would be supplied with power from this transmission, from the gas to energy project. So it's a great project. It will transform this country. The next phase is, once we complete it, we anticipate we'll have to generate another 300 megawatts from the same power plant, because the need will be great. Everyone is now putting in AC, new hotels, etc. So we haven't made a decision on that project as yet, because we didn't want to do it before elections. We went out to tender, but we said we will not do that before elections, because we want to make sure, that would be callous if you go and award a contract before the elections. We'd have to review. We may have to reopen it back, a new bid, and do that. We're still considering the hydro, because another bid for the hydro, so we'd have a good energy mix across the country. So it's an important project. It'll get done. The delay is because we had some issues with the contractor, but it will be done. We're hoping the bridge would have been completed before the election, but it doesn't seem so. But
the connection actually will be done.
Yes, but we don't want people to drive. They have to do test. Well, not testing, because it's practically tested already. Every post they put down, they have to test. Every slab that they put in place, they test. So it's continuous testing. We're hoping that people could have drive before the elections, and then they see that in 3 years after COVID, that's what we did. And the crane and the Heroes Highway and the bypass, all of these were done really in 3 years. Just think about the next 5 years, what could happen, how the country will change. And because of our planning capability, we have come through many, many years. I worked in state planning as a planner before I became even a minister. That was my experience. Irfan Ali has a doctorate in planning, urban planning.
Right.
You got to plan for projects too. APNU didn't even plan. They were busy doing studies and all kinds of things.
Vice President, you spoke earlier about Venezuela, and the Nicolas Maduro government remains a threat to our country. Can you say if more, or can you explain what is being done in the background to get more allies on our side to rally behind our case?
So clearly, we've been successful at getting the entire world practically to support us. We have strong support from the Commonwealth, from the CARICOM, and from many countries in Europe. And they've been vocal about their support. The United States has remained our strongest ally on this matter. Secretary Rubio himself came here, building on what other people who were in his position said before. He said it would be a bad day for Venezuela should they attack Guyana or Exxon. We have seen from, in a bipartisan way, from both the Democrats and the Republicans, strong support for Guyana and our territorial integrity and sovereignty. We recently saw, even in the Senate, a proposed legislation that to have the Secretary of Defense report periodically to the Senate on their collaboration with Guyana to keep the Maduro threat at bay. So we can't risk that for anything in the world. We can't risk that for anything in the world. We have been doing a lot of diplomatic work, awareness building. Our case is in competent hands at the ICJ, and our people are united on this matter. So we can't put that at risk. Our entire country could be placed at risk if we fail on this single matter.
Definitely.
Vice President, to close, I want to take you back to a point you made in your introduction, and that is the People's Progressive Party, Civic, is one that plans for the future, 10, 15 years out. And you are regarded as very crucial to that planning process. You're considered one of the most formidable politicians of this hemisphere. And as a result of that, on that premise, I want to ask you, who do you see as the next person to take over as General Secretary of the PPP to continue the succession and the type of planning that you see for the party 10, 15 years or 20 years out?
So the thing about our leadership is that I think we build an ethos, a philosophy against short-termism and against making promises that you can't deliver. I spoke already about commitment to people. So I'm hoping that all of this is not just reposed in one person. We've worked hard to ensure that the collective and a lot of our leaders share that view. And you have seen it in Irfan Ali and many other leaders. That kind of, when he talks, he speaks sometimes for a long time. And he's very detail-oriented. And many politicians are not detail-oriented because sometimes it's not a popular thing to do. People like the hype of saying a couple of words. But if you're detail-oriented, it means people are giving thought to the last thing you have to do to make a policy successful. And a lot of our people are like that. They're not prone to sloganeering. Some people sloganeer. Oh no, I'll give you $100,000. I'll do this. I'll do that. So I'm confident that in the leadership of our party, that we are not going to deviate from that approach to development and to our people and to our country. And the love for this country is very strong in the PPP. You know, sometimes APNU used to say they're more patriotic than we are. We shouldn't be comparing patriotism, but I can tell you it's very strong. The love for this country and the philosophy of bringing people together is a very strong one. So we are guided by some solid principles. And we believe that people everywhere in the country, Amerindians, Indo-Ghanese, people, the mixed people, Afro-Ghanese, everyone, wherever you live, have to share that prosperity. The prosperity is coming. So I'm just an individual in the PPP. And I'm hoping more that the longevity of the PPP will reside in what we are trying to do with all of our leaders. And every day, I drive people a lot internally. I drive them hard sometimes because I want that to happen. I want that to happen, that we have 50 leaders who believe in what the party believes in. And I think we've been successful. And you talk to people who've come to us or worked in our family. We're a cohesive collective, and we're also we drive our people to succeed. And it's not based on race, it's based on motivation. So I'm convinced that the future will be a good one. And the people of this country have to make a choice on September 1st. I just want to say to those young kids who are out there, because who can get carried away by what's on the internet? And over the next 3 weeks, you will see the rumors will come file against Air Finale, Jagdeo. They started with me. I saw this vice thing and all of that resurrecting because this lady got it. I've addressed all of those issues in the past. They would resurrect every little thing to try to make us they look bad. They go back to the past. Things that were disproved, all of that, and they're going back. The opposition will do that. They'll get some of the so-called influencers to spread the vilest things about our people. But I think people got a dose of that in 2015. Remember, they were hearing we were the most corrupt people in the world. They would lock us up. They'd have investigations. They did all of these investigations in 5 years of investigation and couldn't place a credible charge. 5 years, SOKU, SARA, international organizations did everything. You hear all of this stuff about, FBI, I was supposed to be sent to the Hague for war criminals and all kinds of stuff. We've seen this before. We've seen they talk about extrajudicial killing before at election time, another disproved kind of propaganda. And so people are going to be subjected to this heavily. And they're going to be subjected to the lies from the wind people, especially, about how many people, and they're just misleading people about what they are. And anyhow, don't waste my time bearing them too soon today. That's it.
Vice President, I want to thank you for providing your insights on a number of development issues. I know that our audience has learned quite a lot. So thanks for that. To our audience, thank you as well for joining us. We'll see you later this week with another episode of Starting Point. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching Starting Point. Follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn for critical updates and exclusive content.